If you wanted to know whether a major global conflict was going to escalate last year,
Yeah.
you probably would have, tuned into a cable news network.
Right. Or ask some geopolitical analyst or something.
Exactly. Or you could have logged online and watched $1 billion quietly change hands between anonymous cryptocurrency wallets.
Yeah, because right now the future is no longer just being predicted. I mean, it is being aggressively priced.
And welcome to that negotiation. Today is Saturday, May 30, 2026.
And we are looking back at yesterday, May 29.
Right, because yesterday, the entire landscape of these prediction markets experienced this massive structural earthquake.
It really is.
So our mission for this deep dive is to help you understand exactly how this space is transformed. Like, this is no longer just a niche internet hobby for data nerds.
Oh, not all.
It's an absolute battleground of institutional conflicts, literal legal showdowns, and serious market-moving whale dynamics.
Yeah, and the overarching theme you were going to see today is this really intense tension between decentralization and regulation. Because when you have hundreds of millions of dollars on the line, the most critical question isn't just who made the right prediction. The question is who actually holds the power to declare the winner.
Okay, let's unpack this. We are looking at a massive stack of data from yesterday.
Huge amount of data.
Yeah, covering the biggest liquidity pools across two of the dominant platforms right now, which are Polymarket and Kalshi.
And just so we are all on the same page, when we say liquidity pool, we are basically talking about the giant collective pot of money that traders lock into a specific smart contract to back their bets.
It's the lifeblood of the market.
Exactly.
But before we get into what people are actually pouring their liquidity into, we have to talk about trust.
Right, because somebody has to be the referee.
Yeah, and yesterday, this blockbuster Bloomberg analysis dropped a massive revelation about Polymarket.
It was a fascinating piece of journalism, honestly. And what's fascinating here is how it strikes right at the heart of the vulnerability hidden inside decentralized applications, or dApps.
Right, because Polymarket operates on a blockchain.
Exactly. Meaning it isn't supposed to have a centralized CEO or, a corporate board making decisions behind closed doors.
Like a traditional company would.
Right. Instead, it relies on a third-party dispute and adjudication mechanism to settle bets. And in theory, this is designed to be a broad, community-driven consensus model.
Okay, let me make sure I'm visualizing this correctly. Say there is a market on whether a specific piece of legislation passes by Friday.
Okay.
Friday comes, and the result is messy. Like maybe the bill passed the House but got stalled in the Senate.
Which happens all the time.
Right. And traders are arguing over whether the contract should resolve as a yes or a no. So it goes into dispute.
Right.
In a purely decentralized system, the community is supposed to step in, act as the jury, and basically vote on the reality of what just happened.
Exactly. The protocol requires token holders to vote on the outcome. But, and this is the catch in the architecture of crypto, your voting power isn't one person, one vote.
Right. It's weighted by your token holdings.
Exactly. The more of the specific governance tokens you own, the heavier your vote weighs in the dispute.
Okay, so what did the Bloomberg data actually find?
Well, they looked at the on-chain data and revealed that just 9 anonymous cryptocurrency wallets hold outsized, dominating control over this entire dispute process.
Wait.
9 wallets.
That is staggering. It's like being promised a radically democratic town square where everyone gets a voice. But when you pull back the curtain, it's literally just 9 guys sitting in a VIP room deciding the fate of $1 billion.
It really is. And we need to look at the sheer scale of the public signal this data is sending.
Because we aren't talking about small change here.
No, or obscure arguments over internet trivia. Over the past year, nearly 2,000 contracts have gone to dispute.
Wow. 2,000.
Yeah. And these are contracts covering major global events. We're talking about the outcomes of wars, national elections, and complex macroeconomic policy shifts.
The money involved is almost hard to wrap your head around because the data shows that in April alone, over $1 billion in trades ended up being decided through this supposedly decentralized voting process.
$1 billion.
Right. So you have $1 billion resting on the outcome of a dispute. And instead of a transparent regulatory body or, an audited corporate referee, it is being steered by these 9 anonymous crypto whales.
Yeah.
How did they even get that much control? Like, did they just buy up all the governance tokens?
Well, in many of these tokenomic structures, early adopters, developers, or massive liquidity providers accumulate the lion's share of the tokens really early on.
Ah, okay.
So whether they bought them or earned them through providing capital, the result is the exact same. Capital equals governance.
Right.
When a handful of anonymous entities accumulate enough of those tokens, they essentially become an unregulated Supreme Court for global events.
It completely flips the narrative of what it means to participate in these markets.
It really does.
Because, you might think you're betting against the wisdom of the crowd or analyzing the data better than the average trader, but you might actually just be at the mercy of a few massive stakeholders.
Right, stakeholders who have the unilateral power to dictate the resolution of your trade simply because their wallets are heavier than yours, which forces us to think critically about who we actually trust. I mean, the core promise of blockchain has always been trustless distributed power.
Yeah, the whole point was to avoid the VIP room.
Exactly. But this data shows a severe centralization vulnerability. It proves that decentralized technology doesn't magically erase the consolidation of power.
It just moves it into anonymous hands.
Precisely.
So if Polymarket's major vulnerability is that it's completely unregulated and run by these shadowy whales, you would think the obvious solution is simply to bring these platforms onshore.
You would think so, yeah.
Like integrate them into the traditional financial system and regulate them.
Yeah.
But as Kalshi is finding out in Minnesota right now, bringing these markets into the glaring light of the U.S. legal system creates an entirely different kind of chaos.
It absolutely does. We are moving from the offshore shadows straight into a literal constitutional clash.
It's wild.
Yesterday, Kalshi, which remember is a regulated U.S.-based exchange, officially filed a lawsuit in U.S. District Court against the state of Minnesota.
And they specifically named Governor Tim Walz and Attorney General Keith Ellison in the complaint.
I did.
To really understand the gravity of this, we need to look at the timeline of the past few weeks, because it is turning into a massive jurisdictional turf war.
It really is.
Just last week, the CFTC, the Commodity Futures Trading Commission, which is the federal regulator that oversees financial derivatives, they filed their own federal lawsuit.
Right. They stepped in to protect their exclusive financial jurisdiction.
Meanwhile, the state of Minnesota recently signed a new law, which goes into effect on August 1st. And that law attempts to outright ban these federally regulated event contracts from being traded by anyone inside the state.
The battle lines here are fascinating. Kalshi is leaning entirely on the United States Constitution's Supremacy Clause.
Okay, yeah.
And for those who might need a refresher, the Supremacy Clause essentially dictates that federal law takes precedence over state law when the two are in direct conflict.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting, though. I'm going to play devil's advocate for a second.
Go for it.
Traditionally, states have always maintained a tremendous amount of power over gaming, betting, and gambling within their own borders.
Oh, absolutely.
You think of Nevada or New Jersey state gaming commissions rule their territory with an absolute iron fist. They decide what a slot machine is, what a sports book is, and who gets to operate them.
Very true.
So the state of Minnesota is looking at these prediction markets and saying, hey, this is gambling. We control gambling here to protect our consumers, and we are banning it. And just to be clear to you listening, we are purely looking at the legal architecture here. We are not taking sides politically. But why is Kalshi so confident they can bulldoze a state's right to define gambling?
Well, because Kalshi's entire legal and structural foundation is built on the argument that they are not a casino offering gambling.
Duh.
They are a financial exchange offering federally regulated commodity contracts. They argue that an event contract, say, predicting the outcome of an inflation report, is a financial derivative.
I see.
Yeah, they say it's no different than a farmer buying a futures contract to hedge against the price of corn. Because they are overseen by the CFTC at the federal level, they argue Minnesota cannot legally ban them under state gaming laws.
Because the federal commodity regulations preempt the state's gambling laws?
Exactly. Is the ultimate industry test case.
Is a prediction market a sports book, or is it a stock exchange for ideas?
It is incredible to watch the very definition of these markets be fought over in federal court. And what makes this truly unique is that you don't actually have to wait for the judge's ruling to see who is likely to win.
Wait, what do you mean?
You can actually see what the market thinks about this lawsuit on the market itself. Traders across the platforms are actively using macroeconomic and regulatory event contracts to hedge against the outcome of this exact legal battle.
Wait, I need to pause here. Are you saying people are actively trading prediction contracts on the outcome of a lawsuit that is fundamentally about whether prediction contracts are legal?
Precisely. The market is pricing its own existence.
That is so meta.
It is. And right now, the consensus of traders prices a very high probability that the federal event contract rules will legally block the state-level gaming crackdowns.
Wow.
Yeah, the millions of dollars flowing into these specific regulatory contracts indicate that the market believes the Supremacy Clause argument will win out.
That is incredible. You can literally quantify the legal community's confidence in a lawsuit by watching where the money flows. So while the lawyers are fighting over the constitutional right to exist, and the crypto whales are fighting over who gets to resolve the disputes, where are the regular traders actually dumping their millions right now?
Let's get into the trenches of the liquidity pools.
Yeah, let's look at the actual trades.
Because this brings us to the concept of high-velocity liquidity. When you look at yesterday's data, you see these platforms processing entirely different types of human attention side by side with incredible efficiency.
Let's start with the sports side, because yesterday was an absolute monster of a day for short-term, high-velocity trading.
Oh, massive.
We're talking about the NBA Western Conference Finals, Game 6, the Oklahoma City Thunder taking on the San Antonio Spurs. The total volume for this single-series matchup on Kalshi rocketed past $14.4 million.
That is a massive amount of capital for a single sports series, but it's the mechanics of how that money moves that is so compelling.
The dynamics are hyper-volatile. Like going into Game 6 yesterday, the Thunder had a 3-2 series lead. The market priced them at a 42% probability to close it out and win the series on the road.
Right.
But the Spurs, who were playing at home, were trading as a 59% favorite to win the specific game and force a Game 7.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, what you are seeing is the market perfectly synthesizing a massive array of chaotic data.
Like what?
Think about what goes into pricing an NBA playoff game. You have raw sports fanaticism and bias. You have historical home court advantage data.
Oh, sure.
You have real-time injury reports, referee assignments, and minute-by-minute performance metrics.
Right. It isn't just a static bet placed on Tuesday that sits there until tip-off.
No, not at all.
That $14.4 million is a living, breathing probability curve. Every time a star player rolls an ankle or misses a free throw in the first quarter, you see millions of dollars shift to actively reprice the reality of the game in real time.
Yeah, it is pure visceral emotion distilled into a clean, actionable percentage. But then on the very next tab of the platform, sitting right next to that $14 million basketball sweat, you have highly sophisticated, long-term corporate finance taking place.
This is the SpaceX one, right?
Yeah. Kalshi has a market asking, when will SpaceX officially announce an IPO? And this specific liquidity hub crossed $7.1 million in volume yesterday.
And the confidence there is absolute. Serious traders have locked in a 96% conviction that SpaceX will announce a public listing before July 1st, 2026.
96%.
Yeah, when a market with over $7 million in it hits 96%, that doesn't feel like a prediction anymore. That feels like a leak.
It is the market digesting a completely different kind of information. Unlike the NBA game, which is driven by public broadcasted events, this 96% probability is the result of insider whispers.
Wow.
Yeah, aerospace industry supply chain movements, SEC filing rumors, and corporate restructuring data. It is being priced in by people willing to risk massive capital on being right about the internal mechanics of one of the most secretive companies in the world.
And it doesn't stop with the long-term IPO corporate finance stuff. Simultaneously, there is a short-term operations market tracking exactly how many orbital launches SpaceX will execute in the month of May.
Right.
That contract crossed $1.3 million yesterday. The deadline for that contract is tomorrow, May 31st, and the market is sitting at an 80% probability that SpaceX will achieve above 11 launches before the month ends.
This is what makes the architecture of these platforms so fascinating. You are watching the efficient processing of two entirely different forms of human endeavor.
Yeah.
On one hand, you have the immediate emotional volatility of an NBA elimination game. On the other, you have the cold, calculated logistics of aerospace engineering and corporate operations.
It's a crazy contrast.
The person tracking the SpaceX launches is likely analyzing weather patterns at Boca Chica and federal aviation clearances, and both of these massive data sets are resolved through the exact same underlying mechanism.
Human beings putting their money where their mouth is to establish the truth. It really highlights the incredible range of interests you can explore here.
Yeah.
If you are a sports fanatic, you have a home. If you are an aerospace supply chain analyst tracking rocket boosters, you have a home.
Right.
But what if you are neither of those things? What if you just want to trade on the pure, unfiltered unpredictability of human psychology?
Yes. You are talking about the retail speculation proxy.
I am. Because sometimes predicting the future means trying to quantify the erratic behavior of a single human being.
Yeah, it does.
Yesterday, Polymarket concluded one of its most hyper-popular retail contracts, which was tracking the exact number of tweets Elon Musk would post between May 22 and May 29.
And we should note, this wasn't just a fringe novelty market. It saw massive late-stage volatility as the deadline approached.
Right. It concluded yesterday with the 160 to 179 tweets bracket sitting at a dominant 73.7% probability.
It's wild.
So what does this all mean? Honestly, looking at this, it feels like trading weather derivatives. But instead of tracking the chaotic path of a hurricane over the Atlantic Ocean, you're tracking the chaotic path of a billionaire's social media dopamine loop.
This raises an important question, though. Why do people trade this?
Yeah, why?
It is very easy for traditional finance people to look at a market tracking Elon Musk's tweets and dismiss it as a meme or, a joke for day traders.
Sure.
But it actually serves a highly functional purpose in the broader trading ecosystem. Tracking a billionaire's social media usage has become a highly lucrative proxy trade for retail speculators.
Wait, let me see if I can theorize how this works. Are they using his tweet volume as a literal leading indicator for market volatility in other sectors?
Go on.
Like if they see he is suddenly tweeting 100 times a day, is the market assuming his mental bandwidth is completely fried, he's distracted, and therefore Tesla stock or Dogecoin is about to do something crazy?
That is exactly the mechanism. It is a quantifiable metric of attention. Retail traders deeply understand that Elon Musk's public focus often heavily correlates with volatility in electric vehicles, tech equities, and crypto markets.
So it's not just a joke.
No. By trading on his raw output, they aren't just betting on his thumbs. They are attempting to mathematically quantify his mental bandwidth and erratic behavior for the week. It is quite literally a derivative of human attention.
That is wild. It's the ultimate retail obsession turned into a tradable financial asset. You aren't just betting on his tweets, you are betting on his capacity to disrupt other markets based on how active he is on his phone.
And it perfectly captures the entire spectrum we've discussed today. From pricing the logistics of a massive aerospace operation, to the emotional swings of a basketball game, to counting a billionaire's posts. The market absorbs all of it, processes the data, and spits out a probability.
We have covered so much ground today. We started by pulling back the curtain on the VIP room of Polymarket, looking at how just 9 anonymous crypto wallets utilize token-weighted voting to control $1 billion in dispute resolutions.
Right.
And then we moved from there to the federal courthouse, watching Kalshi and the CFTC go to war with the state of Minnesota over the Supremacy clause.
Fighting over whether a prediction market is a financial derivative or an illegal sportsbook.
Exactly. We looked at the mechanics of the $14 million Spurs liquidity in the NBA Western Conference Finals and contrasted that real-time volatility with the calculated 96% certainty of a SpaceX IPO.
It's quite the juxtaposition.
And we ended with the pure retail mania of using Elon Musk's tweets as a proxy for tech market volatility. It really shows you how multidimensional and, frankly, how serious this space has become.
And as you think about all the data we've unpacked today, I want to connect that very first story back to the legal battle.
Okay.
We saw how a decentralized platform like Polymarket struggles with the 9 whales centralizing the power to resolve disputes. Now, contrast that vulnerability with Kalshi's lawsuit.
Right.
Kalshi is fighting tooth and nail in federal court for the right to operate as a heavily regulated U.S. clearinghouse.
And a clearinghouse, just to be clear, is the regulated middleman that sits between the buyers and the sellers, holding the funds in escrow to guarantee that the money is actually there,
Yep.
ensuring the payout is executed fairly based on legal contracts, rather than, anonymous votes.
Exactly. It forces you to compare how resolution transparency is handled in this new era.
Yeah.
When $1 billion is on the line, do you trust an offshore, anonymous, token voting system where the richest wallets write the rules? Or do you trust a heavily regulated, federally overseen clearinghouse that has to answer to the U.S. legal system?
It is the defining structural question of the industry right now. The plumbing of the market matters just as much as the predictions themselves.
It does. And it leaves me with one lingering philosophical thought for you to consider as these platforms continue to scale.
Let's hear it.
We are watching these markets grow from processing millions of dollars in volume to billions of dollars. At what point do these massive amounts of money on the line stop simply predicting the future and start actively incentivizing people to create the outcomes they wagered on?
Oh, wow. That is a heavy thought.
Yeah.
When the capital behind the prediction becomes the actual motivation to change reality, I love that.
It's something to watch out for.
Well, thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive today. We hope this helped you cut through the noise and get a real grasp on the mechanics driving these massive shifts in how we price the future. Keep your eyes open and keep questioning the probabilities you see in the world around you. We'll catch you next time.